Hey everyone, it's Brandy. I just wanted to get on here and give you an update. I want to do their 1 month update, even though I'm kind of behind right now. I do apologize. It's just very hard to do videos, with the twins because, if one's up, the other one's sleeping and vice versa. And then when they're both sleeping, I'm trying to get things done around the house or, just doing things that need to be done that I haven't been able to do lately. So anyway, I want to go ahead. This will be their 1 month update. And so yeah, let me go ahead and start in here before they wake up. So with their 1 month, of course, they were in the hospital for, well, we all were in the hospital for 11 days total because Ryan was not eating properly. She wasn't taking in as much as she should have been, and she was tiring out. She would start strong with the feeding, but then she was tiring out. Again, I did not breastfeed them let me take that back. They drank breast milk, but I had a pump. I didn't nurse them because I had to monitor how much she was eating, and it didn't make sense for me to breastfeed one and not the other. And plus I was pumping too, so I would have been a milking cow if I would have, did both. So yeah. So once we got home, everything was a little chaotic. I was still extremely swollen from the hospital. When I had my transfusion and everything, for some reason I kind of blew up. I felt like a sumo wrestler, and I never thought it was going to go down. Everything was swollen. My face was swollen, my arms were swollen, my legs were even more swollen than what they were during pregnancy. And I was super tired because of the anemia, and my husband was exhausted because he was at the hospital with me for the majority of the time. He did have to end up going back to work during the last few days that we were there, but so we did have a lot of help from friends and family, which I do greatly appreciate. Again, like they say, if people offer help, take it because you're going to need it. They fed every 3 hours. So I had to, if they weren't awake, I had to wake them up, feed them, and then after I got done feeding them, I had to pump for at least 20 minutes. And so by the time I was done doing that, I maybe got an hour, maybe hour and a half, hour sleep in between feedings. And so I never did have a constant sleep. Like I think the longest stretch of sleep I had gotten during the first month was maybe 2 hours, because I had to be up anyway for pumping, so I went ahead and fed them as well. My husband did take a few shifts. We tried, we both kind of did the 12 o'clock shift because, again, I had to be up anyway. And then the 3 a.m. shift I took, and then the 6 a.m. shift he took. Again, I had to be up to pump, but he fed them. And that was before he goes to work, so it kind of worked out better for him. So at least he got a 6-hour stretch that he could sleep and be rested for the next day for him to go to work. He was extremely busy. He was working full time, which still is, and then he also has his DJing business, to which he would come home, work on his DJ stuff, and then on the weekends, because it was during his busy time, because kids pick when they want to be born, there were times when he was DJing like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for weddings, and mainly weddings, but he DJs for everything. So he was very tired. My mother-in-law actually stays the night with us a few times a week, and she was very helpful. She would get up with him with the feedings as well, so just to make sure that he was okay with the feedings, because he would tend to fall asleep sometimes. And I think it's a man thing. His brother did it too. It's just I could stay awake, and I didn't understand why he could fall asleep feeding a kid, but he could. So we did kind of monitor him while he was feeding during the first month, but he did it like a champ. He did awesome. When we feed them, Carter would always grunt afterwards, and I think it's just the way his digestive is, like his, his digestive tract is a little sensitive. So every time he ate, he would always start moving around and grunting, and he would grunt for a little bit afterwards as well. And as far as Ryan, she drank like a champ as much as she could, and then she was asleep right afterwards. So she never, the only problem we had with her as far as eating was burping. She was very hard to burp, and which didn't help with her acid reflux. She did have a couple episodes with that in the hospital due to the tube being in her nose and everything when they were feeding her. There were times when they laid her down flat, and of course everything just came back up, which set us back another day because she had to be consistent for 24 hours. She had one incident here at home which scared the bejesus out of me. I was here, it was late at night, my mother-in-law was here with me, my husband was DJing, and I just fed her and I laid her down, and she was on an incline, and she just happened to cough or burp, and everything just kind of came up, and then when she went to breathe again, it kind of just went back down, and so she stopped breathing for, it seemed like forever, but she turned red and everything, and we were trying our best to make her breathe, and we had the little aspirator, we were going in her nose and her mouth and getting everything out. She finally calmed down, and everything was fine, but after that, we didn't have a baby monitor at that time, so after that incident, I went out the next day and we got a baby monitor because I wanted to be able to see her at all times. Had I not been up here with her and, heard her choking and whatnot, I don't know what would have happened, if I was downstairs doing something in the laundry room or whatever. So we did invest in a baby monitor very quickly after that. But that's the only biggest scare that we've kind of had since they had been home. I've got a few things written down because it's just so much, and if I don't have it written down, my brain is just crazy. So Carter has an internal clock to where he wakes up every time he feeds, or it's time to be fed. So every 3 hours he was up, probably 15 minutes before the 3 hours was up, screaming and crying that he was hungry. So we have to keep him on the same schedule, so we would have to wake her up to wake Ryan up to feed as well. With twins, you want them on the same schedule, or else you need them on the same schedule. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We did use swaddle pods, which are, let me show you, these little things. They just zip up and down. You just put them in their onesies, and then you put this over them. And the reason we use these is because Carter had an issue where we would wrap him up, and it didn't matter how tight we wrapped him up in the blanket. He would always get his arms out, and that would keep him from going to sleep because he would just be moving them around, and he was grunting on top of that, and he just never would sleep very well unless he had his hands in the swaddle with him. And so we got these cool little swaddle pods for him, and we did for her as well, but we didn't really use them on her. She didn't need to use them, but he did, and it kept his hands inside so he couldn't get them out, and so he slept a little bit longer at night. He slept up until the 3 hour feeding instead of waking up early for that. She didn't use the swaddle pods because when we put her in the bassinet, she was starting to roll a little bit on her side, and we actually used these very light blankets, and we made like a square around her legs so that she couldn't roll. I know you're not supposed to put anything in their bassinets with them, and we honestly didn't have anything to put in there with them, but we needed to stop her from rolling, so we did put, like I said, a light blanket at the very bottom of her, so just over her legs, so that she wouldn't be able to roll. We had to do that with him as well a few times since he was in this little swaddle pod. He was trying to roll too, and we definitely didn't want them doing that. But she liked to have her arms out, so she didn't like her arms being tucked beside her, so she didn't use the swaddle pods like he did. She's a champ when it comes to sleeping though. She sleeps, I think if we would allow her, she would sleep all night, but we can't allow her to do that because her brother wants to eat, so we have to wake her up. What did they sleep in? Oh, they slept in, we have a pack and play. It's and it has these bassinets in it. It's like a double bassinet that fits into the pack and play, and that's what they've been sleeping in for the most part. They seem to be okay with it. Again, they're up all the time, but you know, I'm not sure. We did have to adjust what they were sleeping in a little bit during their second month, but I'll get into that in the next video. But during the first month, they did sleep in the bassinet. And then we have a couple, like a swing that they couldn't fit in. Well, poor Carter would slide down into it. So we had, luckily my uncle gave us another swing that his daughter used, and it's been heaven since then. Let's see here, the dogs. We did introduce the dogs to them. They did very well. We had our older dog, Biscuit. He's, gosh, he just turned 15 in July, and he's blind, so he did very well with them. We just brought home like their blankets and let him lay on them and everything. And then the other two dogs were at my mom's house. She was watching them, and we gave Biscuit a few days to get used to them. The cats did very well with them as well. And then after a couple days, we brought our Boston Terrier Keiko home, and it was just amazing. He was very gentle with them. He would look into the swings to make sure that they were still there, or look, peek his head into the bassinets that we have in the living room and see if they were still there. If they cried, he would cry, kind of warning us. And that's exactly how when Ryan had her little incident with the choking, Keiko was going berserk because she was crying. So, I would have came up here because I heard him, but again, I was glad I was up here when she did it. But he has been just a little, I don't know, a little babysitter to them. He would sleep beside him and everything else, so he did really well. And then Zoe, she's my smaller Boston, and she's more of the alpha dog, so we brought her in last. And we thought we were going to have a problem with her being super jealous because she's always laying with me, and with the babies here, it's a little bit difficult for her to do so. So, but she did great. I let her lay with me as much as I can, but she knows if I have the babies with me and I tell her to get down off the couch, then she has to get down. So I'm very impressed. The only thing we deal with now is, when they start barking or something. Surprisingly, the babies never cried when they started barking. So I'm hoping that continues. So, because my dogs, they are barkers. So they'll bark at people walking down the street. They'll bark at any little noise. So, and then Biscuit, being blind and a little hard of hearing, if he hears anything, he's up barking, and you kind of have to yell at him to get him to stop barking, because he can't hear you. And so I was always afraid that would wake the kids up, but so far so good. What else? We did take them out a few times. Once I was in the hospital since I was in there for so long, when I got home, I was ready to get out and go do things. It's the summertime. I know that they were preemies, but my doctor had assured me that, as long as they weren't in an area that was, a crowded area and people weren't hovering over them and touching them and things, that they would be fine. So whenever I went out on outings, like if I needed to go to Toys R Us to pick up something like these swaddles, then my mother would go with me. And I usually tried to do it on days that they had appointments as well. So she would come with me for the appointments, and then we would go run a few errands with them. So it was great being able to have that extra hand to help me with them. Now, okay, when we got home, we had their 3-week checkup with their pediatrician, which is really close to me. Ryan, when she was born, she was 5'7", but when we left the hospital, she was 4 pounds some odd ounces. When we went to her 3-week checkup, she was 5 pounds 11 ounces and a little over 20 inches long. They were both 18 inches long when they were born. Carter was 5 pounds 2 ounces when he was born, and then of course when we left the hospital he was a little under 5 pounds. And then when we went to his 3-week checkup, he was actually 6 pounds 2 ounces and also 20 inches. Ryan was moved to the newborn formula like her brother because she had succeeded in gaining more weight than what she had, than what she was born with. And but we still did use up the fortifier in the breast milk because we had a whole stash of it, and I didn't want it to go to waste. I didn't have anyone at the time that was using it for their preemie, so we went ahead and used it with the breast milk still for Ryan, so it didn't go to waste. And we did use up the rest of the high calorie formula as well because we didn't want it to go to waste either. And then we moved her to the newborn formula. They also got their first shots I won't say their first shots, but their first shots that I seen them get. It was a little difficult. I didn't cry. My mom cried, but I didn't cry. But basically the nurse just said, hey, the nurse is actually a guy and I love him to death. He did it really quick, gave them their shot in their legs, and then so he would do it, and then you had to grab them up and coddle them to kind of calm them down. That was difficult to watch and to be around because, again, they would stop breathing because I guess it hurts, the poor little things. I swear that needle could have went through their legs. Their legs were so small. But we made it through it, and they were fine. They seemed to sleep all day when they got their shot, but other than that, they didn't seem to run a fever or anything, which I was very thankful for. We did their 3-week checkup because we were in the hospital for so long, and then after that we had to go back for their 1-month checkup, which it was crazy because Ryan went from 5 pounds 11 ounces to 6 pounds 15 ounces, so she had gained like a pound in a week. And then Carter went from 6 pounds 2 ounces to 7 pounds 5 ounces. So they're champs when it comes to eating now. It's ridiculous. I was very impressed and happy, and I'm glad my babies are growing. My 1-month checkup, I went to my OBGYN, and everything's fine. My stitches were, my scar had healed up and everything from when I had my C-section. And then I also found out I was actually 15 pounds under my pre-pregnancy weight, and so that put a little damper on my milk supply. It's really hard when you have twins, and I'm sure with any baby, I mean, I've never had just one baby, but I'm sure with one baby as well, it's hard to find time to eat yourself, or you forget to eat, or, you're supposed to drink X amount of, water, ounces of water a day, and it's really hard to get that in when you're sleep deprived. For me, dealing with the 2 babies, I would feed them, pump, and after that I wanted to go to sleep when I probably should have been eating. So it was very difficult, and I was told that I needed to start eating more calories. But you can only do so much. So I worked with it, and they continued on the breast milk through the first month. By the end of the first month, they were eating about 1.5 ounces each, which was really good, especially for Ryan, since she had come a long way. We had these little bottles in the hospital and after we came home, and this holds 35 milliliters, and she was drinking 25 milliliters of breast milk with the fortifier, and then she had to get like 10 more in. So by the end of the first month, she was drinking 2 of these, and then Carter was doing about the same. And we tried to keep Carter's half and half on breast milk. So if we noticed he was drinking, you know, let's say he was drinking 2 ounces, 60 ounces, we would do 30 milliliters of breast milk and 30 milliliters of the formula. We definitely wanted to, you know, get them their breast milk. So I think that's about it. You know, with the baby, with the newborn, they sleep a lot. There really wasn't anything going on besides just a few outings that I did with them, which they slept through. And then their main concern or main thing during their first month was eating, getting their food and everything else. So, and me breast pumping, and so we really didn't do much. We did do their newborn pictures, which I'll insert a few at the end here, which was really fun. We were a little late on their newborn pictures. They like to do those within, I think, 14 days of birth, but of course we were in the hospital, so we didn't get to do that. We did get it done by their 1 month date, and they did really well. For, I think they were about 3 weeks old when we did them, and they did very well. We were very impressed with the pictures, and we're very excited to get them copied and framed and put all over our walls. So yeah, so I think that's about it. Don't want to go on too much more. The babies are starting to get a little awake. I think that's it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be more than happy to answer them. As far as, you know, pumping, you know, what their schedule's like, things of that nature. We did get a couple rocking plays, which I'll go into why we got those during their second month. I'll go ahead and give you a sneak peek of them real quick while they're sleeping. And FYI, our TV has been on Disney Junior for the past month or so because they love watching color and things, and it's crazy. They're just growing up so fast. So I need to get those other 2 videos up ASAP. Let me go ahead and give you a peek of Carter and Ryan. That's Mr. Carter. He loves his swing that our uncle had given us. He's so cute. And then, let's see here. Here is Ryan, and she's sleeping. She smiles while she sleeps too. And then let me go ahead and give you a sneak peek of how we have our living room kind of set up here real quick. These bassinets, I really like them a lot. They're travel bassinets. You can't really use them after they are starting to sit up and roll over and things of that nature, but we simply put them out here for changing. We have their diapers there and in a basket, and then we have their wipes and the draft spray for blowouts because, you know, babies have blowouts. And then we just usually put their their rock and plays out here. And then if I have them on their boppy pillows or whatnot, I will set them on the ground and let them sit there. And then if they're doing tummy time or just playing on the play mats on their backs, I'll put it on the floor as well. So yeah, that's kind of our setup since the beginning, and we're gonna keep it that way until, like I said, till they start rolling over and sitting up and stuff. It's just easier to change them right here than having to run back to their nursery and do it there. And plus, their nursery, the changing table, it doesn't have like a changing pad on it because it's smaller than the standard size. So once they do go into their cribs and stuff, I'm gonna have to get maybe one made, or I'm just have to make one myself. But I will I need to do a nursery tour too, but right now it looks like a bomb exploded. So anyway, but alright, well, I'm gonna let you go. It's about time for them to eat again, and I will hopefully make a 2-month update here soon and have that up for you as well. Until then, I'll talk to you later. Bye.